The blood-soaked sun dipped below the horizon as Olivia Keller stumbled through the untamed wilderness of Wyoming Territory, her tattered dress catching on every bramble and brush like the past refusing to let her go. The year was 1869, and South Pass City lay somewhere ahead, a mining settlement that represented her last hope for freedom. Her breath came in ragged gasps as she pushed forward, each painful step taking her farther from the nightmares she'd endured at the hands of the Blackwell family. For 5 years, they had owned her in all but legal documents. 5 years of servitude that had spiraled into something much darker after old man Blackwell died and left her at the mercy of his sons. The distant howl of a wolf sent shivers down her spine. Death by wild animals seemed almost merciful compared to what awaited if they caught her. The bruises on her arms and the cut above her eye were fresh reminders of what had driven her to finally flee. Olivia's legs gave out beneath her as she reached a small clearing. The stars emerged overhead, countless pinpricks of light in the vast Wyoming sky. She allowed herself a moment's rest, leaning against a weathered pine tree, the rough bark scraping against her back through the threadbare fabric of her dress. The sound of hoofbeats made her blood run cold. Had they found her already? She scrambled to her feet, ignoring the pain shooting through her ankle, and limped toward a dense copse of trees. But she wasn't fast enough. "Whoa there!" a deep voice called out as a dark silhouette approached on horseback. "Madam, you all right?" Olivia froze, her heart hammering in her chest. The rider dismounted with fluid grace, his movements cautious as he stepped into a shaft of moonlight. He was tall, with broad shoulders and a strong jawline, partially obscured by several days' worth of stubble. A cowboy hat sat low on his brow, and though he wore no badge, there was something reassuring in his steady gaze. "Don't come any closer," she warned, backing away. Her voice sounded foreign to her own ears, hoarse from disuse and fear. The stranger raised his hands, palms out. "Not looking to harm you, madam. Name's Colton Tucker. I've got a ranch about 3 miles east of South Pass City. Noticed you stumbling through my property." "Your property?" Olivia whispered, dismay washing over her. She'd been running north, having heard South Pass City lay in that direction. "That's right," he said, taking in her battered appearance with a frown. "You're hurt." "I need to keep moving," she insisted, glancing nervously over her shoulder. "They'll come for me." Colton Tucker's expression hardened. "Who's after you?" Olivia shook her head, unwilling to speak the name aloud, as if it might summon them. "Please, just point me toward town. I need to find work. I can cook, clean, sew." "In that condition, you won't make it to town before sunrise," he said matter-of-factly. "And South Pass City ain't exactly welcoming to women without means or connections." Tears of frustration burned her eyes. "I have nowhere else to go." Colton sighed, removing his hat to run a hand through his dark hair. "I've got a small cabin on the property where my ranch hand stays, but he's gone to visit family in Cheyenne. You're welcome to rest there tonight. Get cleaned up." "My sister's clothes might fit you." Suspicion flickered across Olivia's face. "Why would you help me?" "Because decent folk help those in need," he said simply. "And whatever's happened to you?" His eyes lingered on the bruises visible on her skin. "Well, I reckon you've been through enough." Exhaustion won out over caution. Olivia nodded weakly, swaying on her feet. Colton moved forward and caught her elbow to steady her. "Easy now. Can you ride?" "It's been some time," she admitted. "That's all right. Thunder here is gentle as they come." He guided her to his horse, a magnificent chestnut stallion who regarded her with intelligent eyes. With surprising care, he helped her into the saddle before mounting behind her. Olivia tensed at the proximity, but the solid warmth of him was oddly comforting in the cool night air. As they set off at a steady pace, she found herself leaning back against his chest, her eyes growing heavy, despite her determination to remain alert. "Rest if you need," his voice rumbled near her ear. "I've got you." For the first time in years, Olivia allowed herself to close her eyes without fear of what might happen while she slept. The cabin was small but tidy, with a stone fireplace, a narrow bed, and basic furnishings. Colton lit a lantern, illuminating the rustic interior, before stepping back outside to give her privacy. He returned shortly with a bundle of clothing and a basin of water. My sister Rebecca left some things behind last time she visited. There's a dress, undergarments, and a nightgown. They might be a bit large, but they're clean." Olivia took the offering with trembling hands. "Thank you, Mr. Tucker?" "Colton," he corrected gently. "I'll fetch you something to eat while you get settled." When he returned with a plate of beans, bread, and jerky, Olivia had changed into the nightgown and washed her face and hands. Her dark blonde hair hung damp around her shoulders, and without the layer of dust and grime, her features were more visible, delicate, and youthful, though marked by hardship. Colton set the food on the small table. "It's not much, but it'll tide you over till morning." "It's more than enough," she said, approaching the table cautiously. "I haven't had a proper meal in days." He frowned at that but didn't press. "I'll be in the main house if you need anything. It's the larger building about 100 yards east. Nobody will bother you here." Olivia nodded, though uncertainty lingered in her eyes. "There's a bolt on the inside of the door," he added, understanding her unspoken concern. "I'll come check on you in the morning, but not before you're ready." Relief softened her features. "You're very kind, Mr. Colton. I don't know how to repay you." "No need for that. Just get some rest." He tipped his hat and turned to leave, pausing at the doorway. "I didn't catch your name." She hesitated. Olivia Keller." "Well, Miss Keller, you're safe here tonight. That's a promise." After he left, Olivia secured the bolt on the door and approached the food like a starving animal. She ate slowly, savoring each bite, aware that her shrunken stomach might rebel if she rushed. When she finished, she extinguished the lantern and crawled into the bed, wrapping herself in the clean quilts. Despite her exhaustion, sleep proved elusive. Every creak and rustle outside sent her heart racing. What if the Blackwells had tracked her this far? What if Colton Tucker wasn't the decent man he appeared to be? What if she'd traded one prison for another? Eventually, physical exhaustion won out, and she drifted into a fitful slumber, filled with nightmares of pursuing footsteps and rough hands grabbing at her in the dark. Morning brought sunlight streaming through the cabin's single window, and the distant sound of activity, the lowing of cattle, the neigh of horses, men's voices calling to one another. Olivia sat up, momentarily disoriented before the events of the previous night came rushing back. A soft knock at the door made her start. "Miss Keller? It's Colton Tucker. I brought breakfast if you're awake." Olivia rose. Wrapping a quilt around her shoulders over the borrowed nightgown, she unbolted the door but opened it only partially, peering out at her benefactor. In the clear light of day, she could see him properly. He was younger than she'd first thought, perhaps 30, with eyes the color of a summer sky and a strong, weathered face that spoke of years working outdoors. He wore a simple blue shirt, tucked into denim trousers, with a gun belt slung low on his hips, a practical necessity in these parts rather than a statement. "Good morning," she said quietly. He offered a small smile. "Brought you some eggs and coffee. Thought you might be hungry." Olivia opened the door wider to accept the tray. "Thank you. I don't mean to impose on your hospitality for long. If you could point me toward town after I've eaten." "About that," Colton said, shifting his weight. "I've been thinking. South Pass City's a rough place for a woman alone, especially one without funds or connections. The mines bring in all sorts, and not many of them gentlemen." Her stomach twisted with anxiety. "I don't have many options, Mr. Tucker." "Call me Colton, please." He cleared his throat. "I could use some help around here. My sister used to keep the books and manage the house, but she got married last spring and moved to Denver. The place hasn't been the same since she left." Olivia stared at him, struggling to understand what he was offering. "You want to hire me? As what, exactly?" "Housekeeper, cook, bookkeeper if you've got the learning for it. The pay wouldn't be much, but you'd have room and board, and it's honest work." His eyes met hers directly. "No strings attached, Miss Keller. You'd have your own quarters in the main house, with a lock on the door, and if you decide it's not suitable, I'll personally escort you to town, or wherever else you'd like to go." The offer was almost too good to be true, which made Olivia wary, but the alternative was venturing into an unknown town with no money and no references, where the only work available to a woman in her position might be far less reputable. "Why would you do this for a stranger?" she asked. Colton's expression grew serious. "My mother taught me and my sister that character is shown in how we treat those who can offer us nothing in return. Besides," he added with a slight smile. My cooking is terrible, and the accounts are in shambles. You'd be doing me a favor. Olivia considered his words. There was something genuine in his manner that made her want to trust him, despite years of learning that men's kindness usually came with a steep price. I accept, she said finally, on a trial basis, for both our sakes. Relief flashed across his face. Fair enough. Finish your breakfast and I'll show you around after. The dress should do for now, but I'll take you into town for proper clothes in a few days. As he turned to leave, Olivia called after him. Colton? When he looked back, she said softly, Thank you. He nodded once, a solemn acknowledgement of what went unsaid between them. Welcome to Tucker Ranch, Miss Keller. The main house was larger than Olivia had expected, a substantial 2-story structure built of sturdy logs and stone, with glass windows and a wraparound porch that spoke of prosperity rather than mere survival. Inside, it was evident that a woman's touch had been absent for some time. Everything was fundamentally clean, but lacked order and refinement. Dishes were stacked haphazardly in cupboards, furniture arranged without consideration for comfort or conversation, and an air of bachelor practicality prevailed. Rebecca tried to visit when she could, but with the baby coming, that's not possible now, Colton explained as he showed her through the rooms. You have livestock? Olivia asked, noting the ledgers piled on a desk in what appeared to be a study. Cattle mostly, though we've been breeding horses too. Started with just a few head after the war, but we're up to nearly 300 now. 5 ranch hands help manage them, though they've got their own quarters by the barn. Olivia nodded, taking in the scope of the operation. And you manage all of this yourself? Me and my foreman, Jasper Wells. Good man. Fought alongside me during the war. Colton led her upstairs to a comfortable bedroom with a 4-poster bed and its own small sitting area. This would be your room. Rebecca's is across the hall, though it's mostly empty now. Mine's at the end. The room was dusty but well appointed, with a wardrobe, vanity, and even a small bookshelf containing several volumes. A window overlooked the front of the property, providing a view of the rolling Wyoming landscape stretching toward distant mountains. It's lovely, Olivia said, genuinely impressed. The washroom is at the end of the hall. We've got indoor plumbing, Rebecca's requirement before she agreed to help me start the ranch. Said she wouldn't live like a savage. He smiled at the memory. There's hot water if you pump it first and give the boiler time to heat. Such luxury was unexpected in a frontier ranch. Your sister sounds formidable. That she is, takes after our mother. A shadow crossed his face. We lost both our parents to typhoid in '62, while I was away fighting. Rebecca was just 17, had to manage everything herself until I made it back in '65. I'm sorry for your loss, Olivia said quietly. Colton nodded his acknowledgement. Well, I'll let you get settled. Your duties can start tomorrow if you're feeling up to it. Today, just rest. Left alone, Olivia explored her new quarters, running her fingers over the polished wooden furniture and testing the mattress, which was surprisingly soft. The door did indeed have a sturdy lock, as promised. She turned the key in it experimentally, reassured by the solid click. Moving to the window, she gazed out at the sprawling ranch. Several men worked with cattle in a distant pasture, while closer to the house, a vegetable garden showed signs of neglect, but remained productive. It was peaceful in a way she'd forgotten could exist. For the first time in years, Olivia allowed herself to consider the possibility of safety, not just temporary refuge, but a place where she might actually build something resembling a life. The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying. That night, Colton insisted she join him for dinner, though she'd offered to cook. Been fending for myself for months now. One more night won't hurt, he said, serving up a simple but hearty stew. Tomorrow you can show me what real cooking tastes like. They ate in what passed for companionable silence, broken occasionally by Colton's questions about her cooking experience and household management skills. He carefully avoided inquiring about her past, or how she'd come to be wandering his property with injuries and torn clothing. As they finished their meal, Olivia gathered her courage. You must be wondering about me. Colton set down his spoon. I reckon you'll tell me when you're ready. Until then, it's not my business. But you've brought me into your home, given me work. Don't you want to know who you're harboring? His blue eyes studied her with quiet intensity. I know enough. You're someone who needed help, and I was in a position to offer it. The rest is yours to share or keep." Olivia looked down at her hands, noting the fading calluses and healing cuts. "I wasn't always like this. My father was a schoolteacher in Ohio. He and my mother died of influenza when I was 16. I had no other family, so I traveled west with a church group that promised to find me suitable employment." Colton listened silently as she continued. "The placement wasn't what they promised. I was sent to work for the Blackwell family outside of Laramie. Old Mr. Blackwell was strict but fair. After he died last year, his sons took over the farm." Olivia's voice faltered. Things changed. Understanding darkened Colton's expression. "You don't need to continue." "No, I want to." She took a deep breath. "They stopped paying me, said I owed them for room and board. When I tried to leave, they—" Her hand unconsciously moved to the fading bruise on her face. "They made it clear I wasn't free to go." "How did you get away?" he asked softly. "There was a fire in the barn. Everyone was distracted. I just ran, took nothing but the clothes I was wearing. I've been moving north for nearly a week, staying off the main roads." Anger flashed in Colton's eyes, though his voice remained calm. "These Blackwells, they likely to come looking for you?" Fear coiled in her stomach. "I don't know. They might. Michael Blackwell, the eldest, he considers me his property." "You're not property," Colton said firmly. "You're under my protection now, Miss Keller, and I promise you, no one will hurt you here." The conviction in his voice made her throat tighten with emotion. "Please, call me Olivia." "Olivia," he repeated, her name sounding different in his deep voice. "If they come, they'll have to deal with me, and I don't take kindly to men who abuse women." For the first time in years, Olivia felt something unfamiliar bloom in her chest, a fragile hope that perhaps her nightmare truly was over. The next morning, Olivia rose before dawn, determined to prove her worth. By the time Colton came downstairs, she had coffee brewing, biscuits in the oven, and was frying bacon and eggs in a cast-iron skillet. She'd found an old apron in a kitchen drawer and had tied it over Rebecca's dress, which hung somewhat loosely on her slender frame. Colton paused in the doorway, surprise evident on his face. "You've been busy." "Good morning," she said, offering a small smile. "I hope you're hungry." "Always am." He sat at the table, watching as she efficiently moved around the kitchen. "You didn't have to start so early." "I'm used to it," she replied, sliding a plate in front of him. "Besides, I thought the men might appreciate a hot breakfast before they head out." He raised an eyebrow. "You're cooking for the hands, too?" "Unless that's overstepping. I wasn't sure of the arrangement." "No, it's fine. They usually fend for themselves, but they won't complain about a proper meal." Colton took a bite of the eggs and made an appreciative sound. "This is delicious." Olivia felt a flush of pleasure at the simple compliment. "Thank you. I'll need to take inventory of the pantry and make a list for supplies. And perhaps see about reviving that garden I noticed. Whatever you think is needed. I've set aside money for household expenses. It's in the desk drawer in the study. And I meant what I said about taking you to town for proper clothes." "These will do for now," she insisted. "I'd rather get the house in order first." Over the next few days, Olivia threw herself into her work with a fervor born of gratitude and determination. She scrubbed and organized the kitchen until copper pots gleamed and every surface shone. She swept out months of dust, laundered linens that had grown stiff with disuse, and arranged furniture to create welcoming spaces rather than merely functional ones. The ranch hands Jasper, Tom, Luis, Everett, and young Billy, who couldn't be more than 18, were initially wary of her presence but quickly warmed to her cooking. By the end of the first week, they were tipping their hats respectfully when they saw her, and occasionally bringing her wildflowers or interesting stones they had found while riding the range. Colton watched her transformation with quiet admiration. The frightened, battered woman he'd found in the woods was emerging as a capable, intelligent person with an inner strength that impressed him. She still startled at sudden movements and kept her distance from the men, but each day seemed to bring a bit more confidence, a few more genuine smiles. "You're performing miracles around here," he commented one evening as they sat on the porch after dinner, watching the sunset paint the Wyoming sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. I haven't seen the place this orderly since Rebecca left. I enjoy having purpose, Olivia admitted, and being useful. You're more than useful, Olivia. This place is becoming a home again. Something in his tone made her glance over at him. He was looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. Admiration, certainly, but something else too, something that made her heart beat a little faster. She looked away, focusing on the distant horizon. I've been reviewing your ledgers. That bad, huh? He asked, accepting the change of subject. Not bad, just disorganized. You're actually turning a healthy profit, especially with the horse breeding operation. That was Rebecca's idea. She said cattle were practical, but horses would bring better returns in the long run. Smart woman, my sister. She sounds remarkable. I look forward to meeting her someday. She'd like you, Colton said confidently. Probably demand to know why I haven't married you already. The casual comment hung in the air between them, suddenly charged with unexpected weight. Olivia's cheeks warmed as Colton cleared his throat awkwardly. I didn't mean, that is, I wasn't suggesting. I understood what you meant, she assured him quickly. An uncomfortable silence fell until Colton stood. Early start tomorrow. We're moving the herd to the north pasture. I'll have breakfast ready at dawn, Olivia promised, relieved by the return to practicalities. As she watched him walk toward the barn for his evening check, Olivia acknowledged the flutter in her stomach for what it was, attraction. Dangerous, complicated attraction to a man who had shown her nothing but kindness and respect. A man who deserved better than a broken, hunted woman with a past full of shadows. She resolved to keep her feelings firmly in check. Colton Tucker had saved her life and given her refuge. The last thing she wanted was to complicate their arrangement with unwelcome emotions he couldn't possibly return. 2 weeks after Olivia's arrival, Colton finally insisted on the promised trip to town. You can't keep wearing Rebecca's old things forever, he said over breakfast. Besides, we need supplies, and I've got business at the bank. South Pass City had boomed after gold was discovered in the nearby Carissa mine, but by 1869 the initial rush had subsided somewhat, leaving behind a more established, if still rough-edge settlement. The main street featured a hotel, several saloons, a general store, a bank, and various other businesses catering to miners and the growing community surrounding them. Olivia sat tensely beside Colton in the wagon, her borrowed bonnet pulled low to shield her face. Though South Pass City was a good distance from Laramie, fear of recognition gnawed at her. No one will bother you, Colton assured her, noting her anxiety. You're under my protection. The words were simple, but powerful. In the weeks she'd known him, Colton Tucker had proven himself a man of his word, honorable in a way she'd almost forgotten existed. Their first stop was the general store, where Mrs. Hamilton, the proprietor's wife, helped Olivia select fabric for new dresses and several ready-made garments that could be altered to fit. Colton insisted on paying for everything, waving away Olivia's protests. Consider it an advance on your wages, he said. Can't have my housekeeper looking shabby, now can I? While Mrs. Hamilton packed their purchases, Olivia browsed the store, taking pleasure in simple things like selecting soap that smelled of lavender rather than lye, and indulging in a small bottle of rose water, her first personal luxury in years. As Colton spoke with Mr. Hamilton about an order of fence posts, the store's bell jangled and 3 men entered. Olivia instinctively stepped behind a display of dry goods, something about their rowdy manner setting her on edge. Well now, look what we found, boys, the tallest of the 3 said, catching sight of her despite her attempt to remain inconspicuous. New face in town. Olivia kept her eyes downcast, heart hammering as the man approached. Haven't seen you before, pretty lady. You working at the Silver Dollar? Because if not, they're missing out. His companions laughed, encouraging him. The lady is with me. Colton's voice cut through the store, quiet but carrying an unmistakable edge of warning. The tall man turned, sizing up Colton, who had moved to stand protectively near Olivia. Recognition dawned in the stranger's eyes. Tucker, right? The rancher from east of town. That's right, Colton confirmed, his posture relaxed but alert. And you boys are blocking the lady's path. A tense moment passed before the man stepped aside with exaggerated courtesy. No offense meant, Tucker, just being friendly. I'm sure, Colton replied dryly. Mrs. Hamilton, I believe we're finished here. Could you have these items sent to our wagon? Outside the store, Olivia released a shaky breath. Thank you. No need to thank me, Colton said, placing a protective hand at the small of her back as they walked toward the bank. Some of these miners forget their manners around women. At the bank, Olivia waited in a chair near the window while Colton conducted his business with the manager. Her gaze wandered to the street outside, taking in the bustling activity of the frontier town. Her blood froze when she spotted a familiar figure across the street, a stocky man with a distinctive gait that she recognized instantly as belonging to Emmett Blackwell, the younger of Michael's two brothers. Panic clawed at her throat. What was he doing here? Had they tracked her this far north? When Colton finished his business, he found Olivia white-faced and trembling. "What's wrong?" he asked, immediately concerned. "We need to leave," she whispered urgently. "Now!" Understanding dawned in his eyes. Without question, he guided her quickly from the bank to their waiting wagon, positioning himself to shield her from view as much as possible. As they pulled away from town, Olivia finally told him what she'd seen. "It might be coincidence," she said, though she didn't believe it herself. "South Pass City is known for its mines. Perhaps they have business here." "The Blackwells are miners?" Colton asked, keeping the horses at a steady pace. "No, farmers. But Emmett sometimes dealt in mining equipment. He could have legitimate business here." She twisted her hands in her lap. "Or he could be looking for me." Colton's jaw tightened. "If that's the case, we'll be ready for them." "I've brought trouble to your door," Olivia said miserably. "Perhaps I should move on, find somewhere else." "No." His response was immediate and firm. "You're staying right where you are, Olivia. I meant what I said about protecting you." "You don't know what they're capable of," she argued. "There are 3 brothers, and they have hired hands who are just as brutal. And I have 5 loyal men who would stand with me against anyone threatening what's mine." His eyes widened slightly as he realized what he'd said. "What I mean is, I understand," Olivia said softly, touched by his vehemence despite her fear. "Thank you, Colton." That night, Olivia couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house, every whisper of wind sounded like approaching danger. She finally lit a lamp and sat by the window, watching the moonlit landscape for any sign of movement. A quiet knock at her door startled her. "Olivia, are you awake?" She padded across the room and opened the door to find Colton standing there, similarly unable to sleep. He wore a simple white shirt and trousers, his feet bare and his hair tousled. "I saw the light," he explained. "Thought you might want some company, or maybe some tea." Olivia nodded gratefully. Tea would be nice. They made their way downstairs to the kitchen, moving quietly through the darkened house. As Colton put the kettle on, Olivia sat at the table, drawing her shawl more tightly around her shoulders. "I keep thinking about what might happen if they find me," she admitted. "Not just to me, but to you and everyone here." "Don't," Colton said firmly, setting cups on the table. "Whatever comes, we'll face it together." "Why?" The question escaped before she could stop it. "Why would you risk so much for someone you barely know?" Colton was quiet for a moment, measuring tea leaves into a pot. "When I came back from the war, I wasn't the same man who left. I'd seen things, done things that haunted me. There were nights I'd wake up screaming, days I couldn't bear to be around anyone." Olivia listened silently, surprised by the personal revelation. "Rebecca was patient with me. She and Jasper, he served with me, they helped me find my way back." The kettle whistled, and he moved it from the heat. "I learned that sometimes all that stands between breaking and healing is having someone believe you're worth saving." He poured the hot water over the tea leaves, the fragrant steam rising between them. "So, when I found you that night, I recognized something in your eyes that I used to see in my own reflection. And I thought maybe, just maybe, I could do for you what Rebecca and Jasper did for me." Tears welled in Olivia's eyes. "I don't know if I can be fixed, Colton." "You don't need fixing," he said gently. "You're not broken, you're wounded, and wounds heal with proper care." In that moment, sitting in the warm kitchen with the scent of tea surrounding them, Olivia felt something shift between them, a deepening of understanding, a recognition of shared pain and resilience. "Tell me something good," she requested softly. "Something from before." "Everything." Colton smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his face. When I was a boy, my father taught me to fish in a creek that runs through the north end of this property. There's this pool where the water slows, and if you're patient enough, you can catch trout big enough to feed a family. As they sipped their tea, he told her stories of his childhood in Missouri, of his mother's garden and his father's dreams of a ranch out west. He spoke of Rebecca's stubborn determination to attend school despite the teacher's insistence that girls didn't need education beyond the basics. He described the journey west after the war, the struggles and triumphs of building the ranch from nothing. In return, Olivia shared memories of her own, her father's library of precious books, her mother's talent for music, the small Ohio town where everyone knew everyone else's business, but looked out for one another all the same. Dawn was breaking by the time they realized how long they'd been talking. Olivia felt lighter somehow, as if sharing pieces of her past had diminished their power over her. As they prepared to start their day, Colton paused at the bottom of the stairs. "For what it's worth, Olivia, I think you're one of the strongest people I've ever met." The words warmed her more than she cared to admit. "I don't feel very strong most days." "Strength isn't about not being afraid," he said. "It's about facing your fears and moving forward anyway. By that measure, you're as strong as they come." With that, he headed out to begin his daily tasks, leaving Olivia to ponder his words and the growing awareness that her feelings for Colton Tucker were developing into something far more complicated than mere gratitude. The next few weeks passed without incident, allowing Olivia to cautiously relax. No Blackwells appeared at the ranch, and life fell into a comfortable rhythm. She continued to transform the house, using some of her wages to purchase small touches that made the place more inviting: new curtains for the front parlor, potted plants for the porch, a colorful quilt for the sitting room sofa. Her relationship with Colton evolved as well. Their evening conversations became a cherished ritual, starting with discussions of ranch business, but inevitably drifting to more personal topics. She learned about his experiences in the war, serving with the Union Army, despite coming from a border state with divided loyalties. He told her about the nightmares that still occasionally plagued him, and she shared more about her time with the Blackwells, slowly unburdening herself of secrets she'd thought she'd carry alone forever. One sunny afternoon in late August, Colton surprised her by suggesting they take a break from their duties. "There's something I want to show you," he said, appearing at the kitchen door while she kneaded bread dough. "If you can spare a few hours." Intrigued, Olivia agreed. After setting the dough to rise, she changed into one of her new dresses, a simple blue cotton garment that was the first thing she'd sewn for herself in years. Colton had saddled 2 horses, including a gentle mare named Daisy that he'd been teaching Olivia to ride during their limited free time. "It's not far," he assured her as they set off, "but it's worth the journey." They rode north, following the creek that cut through the property. The August sun was warm on their backs, but a pleasant breeze kept the heat from becoming oppressive. Wildflowers dotted the meadows they passed, splashes of yellow and purple against the green grass. After about 40 minutes, the creek widened and deepened, flowing into a clear pool surrounded by aspen trees, whose leaves shimmered in the sunlight. "My fishing spot," Colton explained as they dismounted. "Though we're not here to fish today." He helped her secure the horses, then led her to a flat rock beside the pool. The surface was sun-warmed and comfortable as they sat down. "It's beautiful here," Olivia said, taking in the peaceful scene. "So quiet." "This is my thinking place," Colton admitted. "When decisions need making or troubles need sorting, I come here." Something in his tone made her look at him questioningly. "And what decisions are you contemplating today?" Colton seemed uncharacteristically nervous, picking up a small stone and turning it over in his hands. "I've been thinking about the future. The ranch is doing well, better than I'd hoped when we started. But success means little without someone to share it with." Olivia's heart began to beat faster as she sensed where this might be leading. "I know it hasn't been long," he continued, "and I understand if you need more time, but I want you to know that my feelings for you have grown into something I hadn't expected." He finally met her eyes directly. "I care for you, Olivia, deeply." A mixture of joy and fear flooded through her. "Colton, You don't need to respond now," he said quickly. "I just wanted you to know, and to assure you that regardless of your feelings, your place here is secure." Olivia reached out hesitantly and placed her hand over his. My feelings aren't the issue. I care for you two more than I thought possible after everything that happened. Hope brightened his eyes. Then what's troubling you? I'm still afraid, she admitted. Not of you, never of you, but of them. Of bringing danger to your door, and, she hesitated, of what they did to me. The scars they left, inside and out. Colton turned his hand to clasp hers. Whatever happened, whatever they did, it doesn't define you, and it doesn't change how I feel. You say that now, but there are things you don't know, things I can't. Then tell me, he said gently. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. Tears filled her eyes as the words she'd held inside for so long finally spilled out. They abused me for years, she whispered. Michael, he claimed me, said I belonged to him, that no one would ever want me after he was done. Anger darkened Colton's face, but he remained silent, letting her speak. The things he forced me to do. The pain. A sob caught in her throat. Sometimes I can still feel his hands on me. I wake up thinking I'm back there, that everything here has just been a dream. Colton's voice was rough with emotion when he finally spoke. No one will ever hurt you again, Olivia. Not while I draw breath. The conviction in his voice broke something inside her, releasing tears she'd held back for too long. Colton hesitantly put his arm around her shoulders, and when she didn't flinch away, he drew her closer, providing comfort without demands. I'm damaged, she said when her tears subsided. You deserve someone whole. You are whole, he insisted. Scarred, perhaps, but whole and brave and remarkable. His blue eyes held hers with unwavering sincerity. I love you, Olivia Keller. All of you, including the parts that are still healing. The declaration hung in the air between them, honest and unadorned. Olivia felt something tight within her chest begin to loosen a knot of fear and shame that had been there so long she'd stopped noticing its weight. I love you too, she whispered, the words feeling both terrifying and liberating. But I don't know if I can be what you need, if I can ever be normal. Normal is overrated, Colton said with a gentle smile. All I want is you, however you are, for as long as you'll have me. Slowly giving her every opportunity to pull away, he leaned forward. When his lips met hers, the kiss was tender and questioning, asking rather than demanding. Olivia closed her eyes and allowed herself to feel not fear or obligation, but genuine desire and affection. When they parted, she was surprised to find herself smiling. That was nice? Colton chuckled. Nice? I was hoping for a bit more enthusiasm than that. Very nice, then, she amended, feeling a lightness she'd almost forgotten was possible. That's marginally better. His expression grew serious again. We can take this as slowly as you need, Olivia. There's no rush. The understanding in his eyes made her love him all the more. Thank you for bringing me here, for sharing your special place with me. I want to share everything with you, he said simply. My home, my life, my future. They spent another hour by the pool, talking and occasionally sharing tentative kisses. When they finally rode back to the ranch, something fundamental had shifted between them, a commitment made without formal declarations, a bond strengthened by truth and trust. That night, Olivia slept peacefully for the first time in years, without nightmares or fear. The future held uncertainties, but no longer seemed like something to dread. The idyllic peace was shattered 3 days later, when Jasper Wells rode hard into the ranch yard, dust billowing around his horse. "Riders coming," he reported to Colton, who was mending a harness on the porch. 6 men armed. They're asking questions about a blonde woman at the farms down valley. Colton's expression hardened. How far out? Maybe an hour if they keep the pace they're at. Jasper glanced toward the house. This about Miss Olivia? Yes, get the men, all of them. And make sure they're armed. As Jasper rode off to gather the ranch hands, Colton entered the house to find Olivia in the kitchen, unaware of the approaching threat. We have company coming, he said without preamble. Blackwells, I expect. The color drained from her face. How many? 6 men. Colton moved to the cabinet where he kept a shotgun. I'm not about to let them take you, Olivia. I won't let people die because of me, she said, her voice strained but determined. Maybe if I just speak to them. No. Colton checked the shotgun's load with practiced efficiency. These men hurt you, imprisoned you. They don't deserve a hearing. And what's your plan? To shoot them all? Anxiety sharpened her tone. That's murder, Colton. You'd hang. I'll speak to them first, he conceded. But I won't hand you over. No matter what they claim. You're free, Olivia. They have no right to you. She stepped closer to him, placing a hand on his arm. Let me be there when you talk to them, hidden but listening. I need to hear what they say. Colton considered her request, clearly reluctant. All right, but at the first sign of trouble, you run to the cellar. There's a trap door in the pantry floor. Promise me. I promise, she said, though the thought of hiding while Colton faced danger made her stomach churn. They had less than an hour to prepare. Colton sent a ranch hand to town, with instructions to alert the sheriff about potential trouble, though he knew help would arrive too late if things turned violent. Jasper positioned the other men strategically around the property, out of sight, but within range if needed. Olivia changed into her sturdiest clothes and boots, just in case she needed to run. The practical preparations helped keep panic at bay, but as the minutes ticked by, dread built within her like a gathering storm. When hoofbeats approached, Colton guided her to a side window in the study where she could hear without being seen. Stay here until I call for you, or until you need to run. She caught his hand before he could leave. Be careful. Always am. He pressed a quick kiss to her forehead. Remember your promise. From her position, Olivia watched as 6 riders entered the yard. Her breath caught when she recognized Michael Blackwell. At their head, a brutish man with small, mean eyes and a permanent sneer. His brothers Emmett and Daniel flanked him, along with 3 hired guns whose faces were less familiar. Colton stepped onto the porch, shotgun held casually but visibly at his side. Can I help you, gentlemen? Michael Blackwell reined in his horse. Looking for a woman, blonde, pretty when she cleans up. Goes by Olivia Keller. She's our property, run off about a month back. People aren't property, Colton replied evenly. Slavery ended with the war, in case you missed that news. Daniel Blackwell spat tobacco juice onto the ground. She ain't a slave. She's a thief. Stole money and valuables before she lit out. The lie made Olivia's hands clench into fists. She'd left with nothing but the clothes on her back. That so? Colton sounded skeptical. And you tracked this thief all the way from where, exactly? Laramie, Michael answered. Followed her trail north. Folks in South Pass City said there's a woman matching her description living out here with a rancher. That'd be you, I reckon. Lot of blonde women in Wyoming Territory, Colton observed. What makes you think this particular one is here? Because you're being cagey instead of just answering the question, Michael said, his patience visibly thinning. Now, we can do this easy or hard. Your choice. Colton's posture remained relaxed, but Olivia could see the tension in his jaw. I don't respond well to threats on my property, Mr. Blackwell, especially not from men hunting a woman with questionable claims. Michael's face darkened with anger. She's mine. Paid good money to that church group for her services. Got papers to prove it. Any such papers would be worthless, Colton replied. Indentured servitude is illegal in the territories, same as slavery. Listen here, Emmett cut in. We don't want trouble, just the girl, and we'll be on our way. And if I told you there's no girl here matching your description, Michael's hand moved to his gun, then I'd say you're lying, and we'd need to have a more thorough look around. That would be unwise, Colton warned, his voice dangerously calm. My men are positioned all around this property, armed and ready. You're outnumbered, Mr. Blackwell, and while I'd prefer to avoid bloodshed, I won't hesitate to defend what's mine. The standoff stretched, tension crackling in the air. Olivia's heart hammered in her chest as she watched Michael's internal calculation, his desire for revenge battling with his instinct for self-preservation. She ain't worth dying for, Daniel muttered to his brother. Michael's face contorted with rage. She made fools of us. No one does that and gets away with it. Your wounded pride isn't my concern, Colton said. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to turn around and ride out. You're going to forget whatever grievance you think you have, and you're never going to set foot in this county again. Or what? Michael challenged. Or the next time we have this conversation, it won't be with words. Colton's meaning was unmistakable. From her hiding place, Olivia watched the battle of wills, barely breathing. She could see the moment when Michael realized he wouldn't win this confrontation, a slight shifting in his posture, a tightening around his eyes. "This ain't over," he growled, yanking his horse's reins to turn the animal. "She'll always be looking over her shoulder." "No, she won't," Colton replied, "because if I ever see you near her again, I'll kill you without hesitation or remorse. That's not a threat, Mr. Blackwell. It's a promise." Something in his quiet certainty must have convinced Michael, because after a final venomous glare, he spurred his horse and rode out, his companions following. Colton remained on the porch until they were out of sight, then signaled to Jasper, who was positioned nearby. "Have the men watch the perimeter. Make sure they're really gone." When he entered the house, Olivia was waiting in the front hall, trembling but composed. "You did it," she whispered. "You made them leave." "For now," Colton said grimly. "But they might return with more men." "I heard what Michael said about having papers. He was lying. Whatever agreement was made with the church group, it wasn't legal, and it certainly didn't give them the right to—" Her voice faltered. Colton's expression softened as he set aside the shotgun and took her hands in his. "It doesn't matter what papers they claim to have. You're free, Olivia, free to choose your own path. And I choose to be here," she said, her voice growing stronger. "With you, if that's still what you want." "It's all I want," he assured her, drawing her into his arms. That night, with the ranch hands taking turns standing guard, Olivia and Colton sat before the fireplace, discussing their options. "We could report them to the territorial authorities," Colton suggested, "for kidnapping, assault. They broke numerous laws, Olivia." "Without evidence beyond my word against theirs?" She shook her head. "And even if they were arrested, they have friends. They'd eventually be free, and more dangerous than ever." "Then we make sure they never find us," Colton said decisively. "We'll go somewhere they won't think to look." Olivia looked at him in surprise. "You'd leave your ranch, everything you've built?" "For you, yes." His answer was immediate and certain. "Land is just land. It can be replaced. You can't." Tears welled in her eyes at the simple declaration. "I can't ask you to give up your home." "You're not asking. I'm offering." He took her hand, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "Besides, Jasper is more than capable of managing things here. We could be gone a year, maybe 2, until the Blackwells give up or meet the justice they deserve by some other means." "Where would we go?" "California, maybe. Or north to Montana Territory. Somewhere with opportunity but far from their influence." He hesitated, then added, "But before we go anywhere, there's something I need to ask you." The serious tone of his voice made Olivia's heart skip a beat. "What is it?" Colton knelt before her, still holding her hand. "I know it hasn't been long, and our circumstances are complicated. But I love you, Olivia Keller. I want to build a life with you, wherever that may be." His blue eyes held hers steadily. "Will you marry me?" Joy and disbelief warred within her. "Colton, are you certain? After everything you know about me, everything that's happened?" "More certain than I've ever been about anything," he affirmed. "The question is, are you ready for this step?" Olivia considered his question carefully, searching her heart. The fear was still there, fear of her past, fear of not being enough, fear of the unknown. But alongside it was something stronger, love for this honorable man who had shown her nothing but respect and kindness from the moment they met. "Yes," she said, a smile breaking through her tears. "Yes, I'll marry you." Colton's answering smile was radiant as he rose to kiss her a kiss of promise and commitment that left her breathless. "I don't have a ring," he admitted when they parted. "It wasn't exactly a planned proposal." Olivia laughed softly. "I don't need a ring, just you, safe and by my side." They were married 3 days later in a small private ceremony at the ranch. The local minister was sworn to secrecy about the bride's identity, and only Jasper and the ranch hands attended as witnesses. Rebecca sent a telegram of congratulations and promised to visit once the baby was old enough to travel. That evening, as husband and wife, they sat at the kitchen table planning their journey. Maps were spread before them, routes marked in pencil, destinations circled with possibility. "We'll take the train as far as we can," Colton explained. "Less traceable than riding our own horses or driving a wagon." Olivia nodded, studying the map. When do we leave? End of the week. Gives us time to arrange for Jasper to take over operations and gather what we need without raising suspicions in town. A comfortable silence fell between them as they contemplated the adventure ahead. Despite the circumstances necessitating their departure, there was excitement in the prospect of starting fresh together. "Are you afraid?" Colton asked quietly. "A little," Olivia admitted, "but not like before. This is the fear that comes with new beginnings, not the fear of captivity." He reached across the table to take her hand. "Whatever happens, we face it together. That's what marriage means to me." "To me as well," she agreed, marveling at how much her life had changed in the span of weeks. From prisoner to fugitive to beloved wife, a transformation she would have thought impossible when she fled the Blackwell farm. That night, as they lay together in what was now their shared bedroom, Olivia found the courage to allow Colton's gentle touch to replace the painful memories of her past. His patience and tenderness showed her that physical love could be beautiful rather than brutal, an expression of mutual desire rather than domination. "I love you," she whispered in the darkness, her body curled against his. "And I love you," he responded, pressing a kiss to her hair. "Always will." The next morning brought unexpected news. A rider from town delivered a telegram addressed to Colton. His face grew serious as he read it. "What is it?" Olivia asked anxiously. "It's from the sheriff in Laramie." He handed her the paper. "Read it yourself." The telegram was brief but clear. Michael Blackwell and his brothers had been arrested for murder. A body discovered in their barn had been identified as a young woman who had gone missing the previous year. Further investigation had revealed evidence of multiple crimes. The sheriff requested any information Colton might have about other victims. "They killed someone," Olivia whispered, horror and vindication warring within her. "I might have been next," Colton pulled her into his arms. "But you weren't. You escaped, and now they'll pay for their crimes. Do you think it's true that they'll be convicted? Murder carries a heavy penalty, even out here. And if they find evidence of other victims..." Colton's expression was grim. "They won't see freedom again." The news altered their plans. Instead of fleeing, Colton sent a detailed statement to the Laramie sheriff, outlining Olivia's experiences with the Blackwells. He carefully omitted their marriage and her current location, signing the document as her legal representative rather than her husband. "We'll wait for word of the trial," he decided. "If they're convicted, we stay. If not, we follow our original plan." The waiting was difficult, but different from the fearful anticipation Olivia had known before. This was the patient waiting of justice in progress, bolstered by hope and the security of Colton's presence. 3 months later, another telegram arrived. The Blackwell brothers had been tried and found guilty of murder, kidnapping, and various other charges. They were sentenced to hang. Olivia received the news with complex emotions, relief that they could no longer hurt anyone, sadness for the lives already lost, and a strange emptiness where her fear had lived for so long. "How do you feel?" Colton asked that evening, as they sat on the porch swing he'd built as a wedding gift. "Free," she said, after careful consideration. "Truly free for the first time since my parents died. It's almost overwhelming." He squeezed her hand gently. "You deserve every moment of that freedom." "As do you." She leaned against his shoulder. "You were prepared to leave everything behind for me." "And I'd do it again in a heartbeat," he assured her. "But I'm glad we can stay, build our life here." "About that," Olivia said, a nervous smile playing at her lips, "there's something I need to tell you." Colton turned to face her, concern flickering in his eyes. "What is it?" She took his hand and placed it gently on her stomach. "We're going to need more room in a few months, for 3 instead of 2. Joy bloomed across his face as understanding dawned. "You're with child?" Olivia nodded, her own happiness reflecting his. "Dr. Peterson confirmed it yesterday when I went into town for supplies. I wanted to be sure before I told you." Colton gathered her in his arms, holding her as if she were made of precious glass. "A baby," he whispered, awe in his voice. "Our baby." "Are you happy?" she asked, though his reaction had made the answer obvious. "Happier than I ever thought possible," he assured her. "Thank you, Olivia, for trusting me with your heart, for becoming my wife, for carrying our child." As they sat entwined on the porch, watching the sunset paint the Wyoming sky in brilliant hues, Olivia reflected on the journey that had brought her here, from desperate flight to profound love, from crushing fear to expansive hope. "They abused me for years," she had whispered to Colton that day by the pool, revealing the darkness of her past. "No one will ever hurt you again," he had promised, and kept that promise through confrontation and danger, through patience and unwavering support. Now, with justice served and new life growing within her, Olivia finally believed him completely. The scars would always be there, but they no longer defined her. What defined her now was courage, love, and the future unfolding before them, bright with possibility and free from shadows. Spring arrived, painting the Wyoming landscape in vibrant greens and wildflower colors. The ranch flourished under Colton and Olivia's care, with new foals in the pastures and calves strengthening the herd. Rebecca visited from Denver with her infant daughter, Grace, bringing joy and renewed family connections. As Olivia's pregnancy progressed, her confidence grew alongside her changing body. The woman who had once flinched at unexpected touches now moved through the world with quiet assurance, secure in Colton's love and her own hard-won strength. On a warm June morning in 1870, their son was born after a long but uncomplicated labor. They named him Thomas James Tucker, Thomas after Colton's father, and James after Olivia's. "He's perfect," Colton whispered, cradling the newborn with tears in his eyes. "Look what we made, Olivia." She smiled tiredly, reaching out to touch the baby's tiny hand. "He has your eyes. And your stubborn determination. Did you hear how loudly he announced his arrival?" Laughter genuine and unrestrained bubbled from Olivia's lips. "He knows what he wants and isn't afraid to demand it. That will serve him well." As the seasons turned, their family grew stronger. The nightmares that had once plagued Olivia gradually faded, replaced by dreams of the future. She began teaching at the small school that had opened in South Pass City, sharing her father's love of learning with the community's children. Colton expanded the ranch, adding sheep to their cattle and horse operations. When word came that a railway spur might eventually reach their area, he purchased additional land along the proposed route, ensuring their prosperity for years to come. 2 years after Thomas's birth, their family expanded again with the arrival of twin daughters, Sarah and Elizabeth. The house that had once felt too large for a bachelor rancher now rang with children's laughter and the everyday sounds of a loving family. On the 5th anniversary of the night, Colton found Olivia in the woods. They returned to the fishing pool where he had first declared his love. The children stayed with Jasper and his wife at the main house, giving the couple a rare day to themselves. "Remember how frightened I was that day?" Olivia asked as they sat beside the sparkling water. "How certain I was that I could never be whole again." Colton nodded, his arm around her shoulders. "You were always whole to me, just wounded. And you helped me heal." She leaned into his embrace. "I never thought I could be this happy, Colton, that I could feel this safe." "You deserved safety and happiness all along," he said, pressing a kiss to her temple. "I'm just grateful I get to be part of it." They stayed by the pool until sunset, reminiscing about the past and planning for the future. They spoke of Thomas starting school the following year, of the girls' already distinct personalities, of the new wing they planned to add to the house. As they rode home in the gathering dusk, the ranch's lights twinkling in the distance like earthbound stars, Olivia felt a profound sense of peace wash over her. The past, with its dark shadows, would always be part of her story, but it no longer held power over her present or her future. "I love you," she said to Colton, the words flowing easily now, after years of practice. He smiled, the same smile that had first given her hope in her darkest hour. "And I love you, Olivia Tucker, today, tomorrow, always." The promise, like all his promises to her, was one she knew he would keep. In a world that had once seemed filled only with cruelty and pain, she had found tenderness, respect, and enduring love, a love stronger than fear, more powerful than trauma, and as vast and boundless as the Wyoming sky stretching above them.